Welcome to Shop Talks, y'all. It's a production of InKitchen.com. You can check out free information there. It's also sponsored by Hirsch Solutions and Hanes and Impressions, who put this show on. Check out our podcast as well, Low Bleed. Happy to have my buddies here, Mark Bailey, Michelle Moxley, and Jason Murphy. Mark and Jason are on the decorator team at SanMar, a company that actually cares that their garments can be decorated. What a concept. And Michelle is the innovation director at M&R, and they are substitute teachers, and that's a tough gig. Jacob Edwards couldn't make it for some personal reasons, and so we're going to talk about his topic, though. And it's about on-demand, just-in-time, and mass production. I think I'll start with Mark and Jason. You're out there in the world. What's going on? What are the trends in this kind of thing for online stores and basically based on the topic, what are you seeing out there?
Well, there's kind of a mixed bag, right? We have a lot of our decorators that we call third-party production houses that are just big back-end facilities for these online platforms that will create art, create an order, and then it's farmed right through them to typically pull from a stock catalog of offerings based on what works best on their equipment, okay? And they'll process that right through their facility and drop ship it on behalf of the customer to the platform, and then do the invoicing and billing, right? And then, that's more what we consider on demand, because it's already in-house, versus just in time is typically goods that are ordered to that facility within a day. They typically have 1 to 3 days for production time after that to get it out, so their service level agreement with their end user is typically in that 5 to 7 day business range. And those shops, for the most part, that we see are utilizing heat applied technology, right? Then digital, DTG, and number 3 is embroidery. And most of those shops have the ability to barcode the product, which also has the imagery that's going to go on it. So no matter what part of the decoration facility it's going to, the operators can pull up the imagery and they can decorate the product the way it is. And then in their ship stations, they have bins that will coordinate and make sure, okay, this is 1 of 3 items, 2 of 3 items, 3 of 3, we're good to go, and then they'll pack and ship.
So in other words, it comes off the line and it either goes into a package or it goes into a bin where if it's going to get another application. Okay. Jason?
Well, on that same note, as you're working through, if you're going to do on-demand production or any kind of third-party fulfillment, is understanding you have got to spend money on software. You have to have a really good platform. You have to have it integrated all the way through from your actual suppliers out to the shipping on the other side. It's going to make you that much more efficient. So make sure you spend the time to research and understand what's available in the marketplace for software.
Michelle, what are you seeing out there?
So from an equipment standpoint, you want to match the equipment to the volume of output that you want to do. So it's kind of a volume-driven factory. If you're doing unit of 1 and every print is different, but you have a lot of throughput, then indexing DTG systems can be really useful. If you're doing a little bit lower volume unit of 1, then standalone DTG units and pod systems can be useful. Anything that can integrate with a barcode scanning system, so as you're loading a shirt, the equipment recognizes what product it is, pulls up the art and prints to that garment. So in our development, we're looking at expanding into different fabric types. So what you were saying about it being targeted towards the best printing fabrics to meet the equipment standards, we're trying to expand the equipment capability to print on more and more fabrics so that you can have more and more offerings, but also maintain the on-demand aspect so that every product that's loaded, it will adjust its print capability to that product.
This is actually a real question I have. So I know direct-to-garment is improving fast, et cetera. transfers are pretty good. Still, nothing is faster than producing it ahead of time and putting it on the shelf. So are people doing combinations, or are they mostly doing old school like that and DTG?
Honestly, what I've seen out there is a combination. I've truly seen a lot of people that are getting into on-demand printing and doing more just-in-time, but I still walk into shops that have racks and racks and racks already printed so they can pull it off and ship it. I think the big thing to understand is if you have a contract that's that big...
It's not that sexy, though, to talk about that.
It's not, but if you have a contract that's that big that you can print beforehand, put it on the shelf and pick and pull fast, it's worth doing the production beforehand. If it's something you can't guarantee and it's an online store, it's like, okay, I might get one, I might get 100, I might get none. Yeah, don't put anything into stock for that.
Yeah, and I would also add a lot of our decorators are offering kitting services these days, which means they're stocking hard goods and other products for these customers. And so if they're doing on-demand production, then they're kitting with hard goods, but in many cases running small levels of volume for inventory to be able to pull, package, ship, obviously for an additional fee, faster for the marketplace.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I'll speak for Jacob, actually. I've seen at his shop both ends of it. If he prints stuff that's inventoried, but they're out of XXX, they'll DTG print it and add that instead of doing a print run right away. They also, I know, for example, he had a pretty good license or that he was printing for, and they did like 33 designs they rolled out, which would have been, $100,000 in inventory. Maybe it would have been a nice purchase from SanMar, but it's a lot of bucks. And instead, they printed it all digitally to start with, and then 3 took off, and 30 were mediocre or less, and then they screen printed those 3, and then they made a lot more money when they did that.
Yeah, and that's why over the years you've seen more just-in-time models. The old school way was just to inventory the hell out of stuff, and it's just not that way anymore. And for a lot of good reasons, though.
Actually, I mean, sustainability. Actually,
Yeah.
People don't talk about that. But besides the cost investment, hell of a lot of garments I think were thrown out or
reduced so dramatically that nobody was making money. So if you're making a model that's on demand and printing to what is being ordered, especially in an e-commerce space, you're more sustainable. You're not producing an excessive amount. You're not losing anything on a sale basis. It's a smarter business model.
All right, so get a little tougher question here. In this system where orders come in and the blank comes from SanMar or some inferior place and goes to into production, where are the bottlenecks now and what's being done about that? So I'll even mention a couple that I've seen when I've been in these facilities. One is, it seems like sort of a fire drill, figuring out which blank gets that barcode. That's a bottleneck. So when it comes in from wherever, how do we get that in the system that has a barcode and picks the design? That's certainly a bottleneck. Another is, with at least a lot of the pre-treat digital machines, there's the pre-treat thing seems kind of slow. So what's being done about those? Do you see other bottlenecks?
Well, I can talk about one, so the pre-treat, right? So nobody likes pre-treating. It's dirty, it's nasty. I did it for my machines and it was the worst thing ever. So one thing that we're doing is we're trying to come up with more pre-treated garments that are ready to print out of the box. And that, I think, is going to help that part of the bottleneck. And from there, honestly, the other big bottleneck that I think Mark and I hear about most is inbound freight. Counting it in. What's in my box? How do we do this? And that's where we started putting LPNs on ours, license plate numbers, that you can scan and know what's in that box. So again, it's back to technology and investing in that technology so you can check in a box real fast.
That's true. And the other thing is, everything's gravitating towards small orders because everyone wants it to be by order as far as where it's going to go outbound. So instead of bulking and the decorators having to sift through it all and figure out what's what, like Rick said, they're bringing in smaller orders. And so there's a lot of wholesalers out there that now have freight programs working with the decorators that allow that small order business, and it doesn't put all the pain on the decorator to have to sort through it all.
I know another bottleneck that's been looked at lately is color matching in DTG. there's a lot of high demand for matching specific team colors or PMS colors or brand colors, and we're putting a lot of time and energy into building color models so that it will work in that automated workflow. That you scan it, it will match that color on various garment types and various garment colors, which has always been a challenge in screen printing, and this will be automatic.
Yeah, what is there, like 40 sports colors or something like that? You cover almost all sports logos. Is it 40? What is it?
40 and some change, 43.
I'm working on 256.
Oh, Jesus. I'm writing an article
is
about...
magenta one of those?
Actually, printing pure CMYK channels is really difficult because you're making the print head be really good at this one thing. So I always tell people in digital printing, the one thing that I think color matching is totally possible, and we're going to get there and be really efficient and automatic with it, but don't ask me to print pure magenta.
You know, it's kind of surprising what colors don't reproduce. Dark navy with the digital machines. I don't know why that's so hard. I guess it's to keep us in business as screen printers. Actually, I'm writing an article about color matching and how hard it is. Like, it's like you start writing about it, it's like it's impossible. How do we do it?
Yeah,
you know,
it is very, very difficult, and there's a lot of assumptions that it can be done. This is my perspective. There's a lot of assumptions that it can be done just through computers and scanning software and scanning systems, but I think color is emotional, and I think it has a definite impact on human beings, and the eye is always driven us before. So I'm trying to integrate those two things together and building color systems for digital, because I do think you can achieve a really wide range of colors, but it has to keep a human involved.
Well, it's funny because I was looking it up. The human eye can see almost 500,000 colors, and Pantone, the fucking devil, that's 2,189, I think, or something like that. So
And
can
not,
say what
not
I
to
want.
mention the fact that what's it look like wet versus dry, right? Those are two different colors.
Oh no, it's deeper than that. There's the formula that's in the bucket. There's when you draw it down, then ones that actually print it. There's a thing called metamerism. Metamerism is actually a physical thing that your eyes do so that the background of a color, around a color, is affecting the, I forget, rods or cones, so that you see it differently. And then you're like, oh my God, when you actually put those together, they're the same, but they look different.
And that's a really interesting concept in a digital space, because you're able to change things so quickly and from one unit to the next that all of a sudden you're going, well, am I matching it with that in consideration? Because in screen print, you block that out and you make a match, and then you can print on multiple things. Yes. But in digital, you start to have to consider that maybe those influences are part of the color matching process.
And then, of course, there's light. Add that in. I saw a light box. I was like, yeah, that's great for looking at shirts in light boxes. And great for sending to people that have light boxes. Yeah. And great for lawyers maybe, but for real life, fluorescent and sunlight seem to be the way that most people look at things, and those boxes don't really do either of those very well. I haven't seen one yet that's the power of the sun. So what else? Any questions, actually, about... All right, then we'll keep yakking. So what about the shirt part, like the getting the shirt into systems? What's going to happen like 10 years from now, do you think? You know, what's the world going to look like in that? Because now that is a bottleneck, like I said, at some places, getting that blank into the system.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people talking about RFID tags in the garments. You know, there's a great case for that, but then you have a lot of people that don't want that because they don't want to be tracked. Mainly people who do illegal licensing decoration. They try to sell it at the football stadium.
Yes.
You know, I mean, that's really where it needs to go. And it's, you know, the barcode's got to be reusable. So as soon as it hits the decorator shop, okay, I know everything about it. This is the right product. Repurpose it, dump in the art, dump in the drop ship directions, things like that. So, I mean, I think that's the direction where it ultimately needs to go.
And where's it going software-wise in terms of like people's systems integrating, like for ordering from you? You know, like that's another step, right? Someone orders a pink pair of sweatpants and it's going to get decorated in a certain way and it needs to be ordered. They're not going to, very few places are going to stock that to print on. So how does that part work and where's that headed?
So I'd say the biggest thing with that is the folks that are being smart about this are integrating, and they're integrating through their shop management and their order system directly into SanMar. So as they're creating orders or taking orders online, it's seamless to go from their customer into their system, out of their system to us, get shipped, they bring it in, scan it, goes into their system. So you were talking about how do we get the barcode of the right shirt. I want to say today that's probably the biggest bottleneck because it is completely manual. It's printed, all that's automated, but there's still somebody has to take that off and stick it on a garment. That is probably the biggest bottleneck I see.
And that's friction, right?
Yep.
So Industry 4.0 and like a smart factory system is going to automate that process. And if it comes from a manufacturer with a RFID in it and you can integrate it, your command center inside of your factory is going to have awareness of that product as soon as it leaves their facility and gets to your customer and every step in between. And that gives you opportunity for streamlining your process. Any point of friction where there's a human placing a barcode sticker has an
Damn
opportunity
pesky
to
humans, huh?
fall off. I just gave a little presentation where I had a sticker on a shirt and it fell off and I printed 10,000 units with the wrong color. This is the same thing, and since it's a unit of one, you're disappointing a single customer, but that is your whole model. So in order to be efficient and profitable, you can't have failures like that.
So how much are you integrating where the person is not allowed perhaps to order the thing that you don't have, which is the problem du jour? So if you're not going to have more pink sweatshirts or pink sweatpants for 3 months, are you playing nice with everybody enough to tell them that so that they don't allow their customer online to order that? Like, where's that going? Because that's a bottleneck as well, right?
Yeah, it definitely is. And those who are integrating...
And not to pick on you. I mean, I think you're actually doing better than most with
but we're struggling, right? The world is kind of a little broken these days. But most of the customers that integrate with us have the ability to create algorithms to drop those styles out of their sites if there's no inventory, right? So they're protecting themselves, without question. But, we're also doing a lot of things at SanMar with industry systems. Deco Network and Shopworks and Impress, and we're really getting them to understand what the entire industry needs for communication. So being able to allow customers to utilize their systems, directly integrate and send the orders to SanMar, but then also communicate back to their systems like Jason had said with our license plate numbering system. So all you're doing is scanning packages, right? It's populating against what you're expecting to be there. Yes, 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 yes. And oh, by the way, I need these 3 packages because they got to go into production immediately. And you can instantly pull those out before that UPS driver or FedEx or whoever it is actually leaves the building. So that's the bottleneck, right? And that's where a lot of issues come up because it takes 24 hours, sometimes even longer, for decorators to even go through that load that they had gotten in-house and to figure out what's there and what's missing.
So how sophisticated is it? I mean, is it just the item is in your warehouse or not? Or is it getting to the point where it can say, well, it'll be here tomorrow, or it'll be here in 3 days or 3 weeks, and they tell the customer that? Or does it pick a similar product? How sophisticated are people getting about these kind of things?
I'm not sure about alternative products. Those are the things that we're working on now, and we've just launched some new things on SanMar.com to make it easier. So if you're not stuck in a particular brand, you need a black t-shirt, 100% cotton, this ounce, we can find stuff for you, right, if you're open to it. But I don't think most systems are that way. And if they are, they're not putting a brand label on their sites, on their stores. They're just putting a 100% cotton t-shirt, ring spun,
right,
so that they can, pull any kind of option that they want. But, you can go granular down to the DC with SanMar if you want, and I would imagine with others. But most people pull in a global inventory because they just want to make sure that it's somewhere. And then the ones that are really smart are putting an allocation allotment level that there's got to be a minimum amount of product in the particular facility. Otherwise, they just take it offline. So 24 pieces or more, and that's just a way to protect themselves.
And that speaks to why we're doing application development on multiple products, because people have to be really flexible. So that means that the digital equipment has to become more flexible to be able to address these changes that are just immediately happening in market demand. It's not necessarily trends that are driving those changes. It might be supply. And if the equipment can't be flexible to print on different things immediately, and hopefully they have some labeling so we have an idea of what they are, but content and especially different fabric contents, they react differently to pre-treats and heat and application methods.
It really is funny how it's like diverged. So everybody wants to print things on demand, and that's 100% cotton usually. And then all the garment people want to make super fancy ass garments that are made from who knows what, and have what kind of nap to them, or what have you, and those are totally at cross purposes at the moment, right?
Yeah. I always think like
that gives you a job though, Michelle,
yeah,
right?
no, absolutely. I always think like, yeah, let's go ahead and start doing demos on this equipment as the development, because everybody that shows up is going to show up with the hardest thing they've ever had to print, and that's what we have to demo on. And it's okay. Like, I would have done the same exact thing, and I walk in, I'm like, well, I've never printed that before, so let's see how it goes. But then we figure it out.
Well, and that's what equipment suppliers should be doing. There's a lot of them that will pick the best shirt that works with their equipment, and that's all they feature at shows. So you think it's amazing.
Yeah.
The reality is that's not what people send into your shops, right? They're going to send in whatever value piece that they can find, and you have no idea because you've never decorated on it before.
Right.
And I think that development is built through application. So if we're going to explore digital print space and expand it and make it more flexible, we have to challenge it.
And that's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thanks.
Something else about M&R, though, I mean, what you're doing with the digital side and it's in the squeegee and teaching people how that actually works, that right there is going to be one of the biggest game changers, I think, in screen printing. When people start understanding the indexing that you're talking about and how those printers work, when I had my old ovals, if I was available back then and I knew about it, oh my gosh, because I wanted to do small orders.
Yeah.
I wanted to take 24 and 48 pieces, and you could do it with that kind of work.
Absolutely. It's just a learning curve, and you have to immerse yourself in it for a minute, and you realize it's not that challenging.
Michelle, you'll love
Learning.
Michelle, you'll love this one. So for the first time ever this week, I had someone, been a customer for 20 years, they do rock and roll printing, and they're like, we have this image, and there's not enough digital squeegee capability out there. Could you separate it and screen print it? It's like turned on its head. I was like, holy cow. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's good. Like,
it shows where it's coming
they're
from.
asking for it by name, and then, they go and they can't get it because it's all in high demand, and that makes sense. That's pretty good. I like that.
On the other hand, I think it's what Jacob has said to me in some of these seminars. He's like, people don't care how it gets on the shirt. Just get it on there. Don't even tell them how.
Yeah, and
if the transfer looks like a screen print and transfer is better, don't tell them it's a transfer.
And there's a lot of our customers that actually don't anymore. It's all volume driven. So if it's really high volume and they are good at simulated process, they'll screen print it. If it's mid to low volume, they'll use hybrid. If it's unit of one, they'll use digital. If they can align those processes and get color matching as consistent as possible and dial their screen printing process, there's no reason to tell anybody.
Yeah, that's a big if, though, huh? That one. Get the colors to all look the same.
Very big if.
Yeah, for customers that don't care as much, though, I think that's
well,
here.
and that's target what we're doing to try a volume factories, that you can get as much of it aligned as possible, because then you can really utilize the equipment for the best application and margins that you can get.
I mean,
that's the way it should be.
5 years ago, you couldn't get white ink to look the same DTG and screen print, right?
Right. And that's been a big thing of mine for the past year. And I feel really proud of where we've gotten with white ink. And I've gotten to the point where I can't get the difference between a standalone DTG and hybrid unit. And now I'm working on all three of them with an indexing DTG. And if I can lay them all down and I can get somebody like you to be like, which one is which, then I'm there.
Well, it's funny. I also took, I was saying the story earlier, it was an FM Expressions vintage transfer, and I took it around to the screen print place. I said, I didn't print this, but what do you think of this print? And only these are like the more sophisticated people at all the suppliers. Only one knew it was a transfer.
Oh, cool.
You know, so that's how
Yeah.
how far transfers have come. That's what
The
you're talking about.
technology is increasing a
Yeah.
lot, which is exciting.
You got to change the names. I've been calling transfers indirect prints for some people. It's going to be an indirect print.
Yeah.
I mean, it is really. It's a screen print.
Yeah,
it's a
like
mirror
an
image,
offset. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
On a carrier sheet, and then
Yeah.
you heat apply it, but it's
Yeah.
really the same ink
Yeah.
or close to it.
And transfers is another thing that people integrate into these smart factories because they can shelf that without having to shelf the shirt and then make those transfers. And you can make transfers through DTF, which is direct-to-film digital application, or hybrid, or screen print, depending on your volume. So it's another volume-driven application.
Or buy them. And
Or you can buy,
there's
yeah.
100 of them and take a shelf like that
And
instead of like the
There's a fun in
shirts that
that.
would be a whole rack. So
It's low cost too, and in addition to that, it works on so many other products.
Yeah.
That same transfer, right? So, see a big trend that way.
also transfers are totally predictable.
Yeah.
Not weather dependent like screen printing or humidity, or you try to control all
Yeah.
those things, but it's real hard to control it. Or even, you might get a shirt that went through a rainstorm, right? And or a bag anyway, a canvas bag
Yes.
that went through Louisiana on its way to your shop in Houston, and you have to put it through the dryer twice, whereas a transfer, time, temperature,
Yeah.
pressure, it will work every single time.
That's true.
Any questions out there about?
Are you guys seeing the difference between, so the older model of warehousing items, are you seeing that space now being used to warehouse goods on property so that they can knock things out quicker?
All right, so the question is, are you seeing an increase in warehousing of blanks because of the on-demand?
Today, yes, because everybody's hoarding.
Yeah.
They want their black
Yeah.
T-shirts. I would say, Mark and I, we've been at a lot of these shops, and I would say it's kind of a 50-50. Some of them like to stock certain products because they know they're going to go through them regularly, and others prefer it just to ship in daily. And I don't know. I struggle with that model myself because I think back when I had my business, I'm like, what would I have done? I probably would have stocked shirts.
Black,
because
gray,
I want
navy.
to pull it now.
Black, gray, navy at a lot of places that I see, and nothing else. You're always going to use those, and a lot of other things you're not. And then, because of equipment limitations, I think some people stock certain things because the machines just don't work well with others.
Yeah, it depends on your business model too. So there's a lot of third-party production facilities that allow customers to buy the goods and ship them in, right? Versus them owning the goods themselves. So it just really depends on your business model and then how fast you want it out the door.
Other questions? All right, hearing none, we will end the session. I want to thank Jason, Mark, and Michelle. How about a hand for them? I want to thank my thing, theinkkitchen.com. Check it out. Like us on every kind of social media you can imagine. And check out the podcast. We got Andy here who helps produce those. Low Bleed. And more of those will be coming out. I want to thank Hanes and Hirsch Solutions and Impressions Show here. And so ends another day of Shop Talks. If you're around tomorrow, there's a few good ones that are going to happen. Thank you.